Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here for another France travel video. In this video, I'm going to bring you with me on our very first day of our travels. After months of planning and anticipation, our trip was finally here. Our day started out nice and early, leaving our house at 4:30 in the morning to catch a flight to our layover in Washington, Dulles. We landed at Dulles Airport around 11 a.m., with our next flight not departing until 6:30 p.m. Since we upgraded to business class on our United Airlines flight from Dulles to Paris, we were able to access the Polaris Lounge at IAD. This was really nice to have during this long 7-hour layover to get something to eat and drink and get refreshed before our overnight flight. We even made use of the showers at the lounge to prepare for this long flight. I did do a full tour of the Polaris Lounge at IAD, so make sure you check that out as well. After some time to rest, we hopped on our next flight and departed for Charles de Gaulle around 6:30 p.m. East Coast time. Being able to lay flat during this flight and get a little bit of rest was really nice for the long flight, and seeing that we had a full day of travel ahead of us. Once we landed at Charles de Gaulle, it was around 6:30 a.m. Finding our way through Charles de Gaulle Airport was initially a little overwhelming since it was the first time that we had been there and we didn't really speak the language. But there were a lot of airport staff around to help guide us. We had a designated immigration line, and since we were traveling from the United States, all we needed was a passport. We got through the immigration line, walked up to a booth, and scanned our passport on the scanner. Once that was cleared, we stepped through a set of clear doors, and they took our picture. Once our picture was taken and we were clear, the last step was to approach the immigration officers in the booth, get a stamp on our passport, and we were on our way. The process was really quick and efficient, and maybe taking no more than 5 minutes or so. Since we packed light, only bringing a carry-on for a week in France, this made it so much easier to navigate through the lines and a little bit quicker to move through the airport. It was also nice to not have to take the time to go get our luggage as well. We walked through the airport to the bus stop to board the shuttle bus to the Disneyland Hotel. We landed in Terminal 1 and initially made our way to the bus stop at Terminal 1. Upon double-checking the bus schedule, turns out there was an earlier bus departing at 9 a.m. at Terminal 2. The first bus didn't depart Terminal 1 until 9:55 a.m., so we decided to make our way to Terminal 2 to catch the earliest bus we could, and we had plenty of time since we got in so early. Since we booked our bus ticket ahead of time when we booked our Disney hotel, all we had to do was load up our luggage, find a seat, and we were on our way. We arrived at the Disneyland Hotel around 10 or 10:30 a.m., checked in, left our luggage with the bellhop, and we got our Magic Pass, which had our park tickets on it. Since it was still early, we didn't have a room assignment yet, so we headed into Disneyland Park for day 1. Even though we were tired, the excitement, at least for me, was palpable. We headed into the gates and made our way to the end of Main Street. When entering the park, we were greeted with the iconic features of the Disney parks, including the railroad running around the perimeter, City Hall, and the Central Square. Some of the unique touches to the park were evident right away, including posts that lined Main Street, and these each had pictures on them of various Disney characters that changed. As we made our way down Main Street, the first stop was to get coffee and a bite to eat to get our day started. We stopped at Cookie Kitchen for an espresso, a chocolate croissant, and your classic Mickey-shaped beignet. Instead of the drip coffee drinks that I'm used to in the US, they served espresso-based coffee drinks. So espressos, Americanos. The coffee and pastries, in my opinion, were superior. We also shared a Nutella-stuffed Mickey beignet. This was delicious. It had a lot more dense texture and was a lot more donut-like than the ones in the US parks. This would actually be the first of many Nutella-flavored foods that we would have during our stay. Making our way down Main Street, this is when I kind of scoped out some of the restaurants and the stores to visit later on in the day or another day when we came back. Another unique feature that I noticed right away were metal sculptures lining the front of the Main Street square near the castle. These were of many of the popular movie characters and were so stunning to look at as you made your way up to Sleeping Beauty's castle. Not having a plan on the first day, we just made our way to the right into Discoveryland, and this is also known as Tomorrowland in the other parks. The overall look and theming in Discoveryland was very different than the US parks, matching the brown nautical theme that we saw at Tokyo Disneyland. We walked around, taking everything in and looking for a ride that had a reasonable wait. And this ended up being one of my favorites, Space Mountain. The Space Mountain experience here is a lot different than the other Disney parks we had been to. The queue and loading area is mainly outdoors, and the ride experience is more intense, going a little faster and with the inclusion of 3 inversions. As a lover of thrill rides, this was really exciting, and this currently stands as my favorite iteration of this ride. After a few more attractions and making our way back across the main courtyard, we went into Adventureland. Walking through Adventureland, we found a restaurant that caught our eye, and this was a Lion King themed restaurant. Characters from the Disney Renaissance in particular are my favorite, so this was really exciting, and there were a lot of Lion King themed merchandise as well throughout the park, perhaps in honor of the live action remake that has recently been released. The restaurant served African-inspired food. I ordered the pulled beef sandwich, which was a wrap with a slightly spicy pulled beef with lettuce and pickled onions. This was served with sweet potato fries, and we also got a soda. It tasted very much like a pulled pork sandwich, or kind of like a sloppy joe with a little bit of spice and a slight turmeric flavor. It was tasty, but not exceptional. I did really like the nostalgic atmosphere. After a few more attractions and exploring the park, we got an email stating that our room was ready and we were given our room number. We did do some more exploring around the park and took in a few more rides. At the edge of Adventureland is another one of my favorite thrill rides, Indiana Jones. This one is also a lot different than the rides I'm used to. The iteration at Tokyo Disneyland had been my favorite version, but this one was a roller coaster with an inversion. So Disneyland Paris upped the ante when it comes to excitement for the ride itself. Even if you're not a fan of thrill rides, it's still worth experiencing, at least for the main differences in the queue, this one being outdoors. The ride actually reminded me a lot of Raging Spirits, one of the thrill rides at Tokyo Disney Sea. Walking through Fantasyland, we passed by the legendary It's a Small World, and I was impressed with how all the transitions between lands were themed. The entry to Adventureland from Fantasyland was a little more subtle, the sign having that castle and medieval theme, but transitioning seamlessly back into Adventureland. Next up was another Adventureland attraction, Pirates of the Caribbean. This attraction is an iconic Disney park attraction, and this version of the ride was very similar to the version of the other parks, but the queue was a lot more immersive. Within the ride, the dark skeleton bedroom setting was towards the end of the ride versus the beginning that you see in the US parks. Our first day at Disneyland was much more relaxed, and the goal was just to take everything in and get a general lay of the land to prepare to tackle as much as we could on our second day. Booking 3 nights at the Disneyland Hotel came with 4 days of park admission, and this was the perfect way to spend our first day. We explored the park in a more relaxed way, knowing that we weren't going to miss anything, leaving the park early since we were able to come back. After a long travel day, we headed back to the hotel to settle in. They had brought our luggage to the room already, so all we had to do was head to our room and explore the hotel room itself. I did do a tour of the hotel room at Disneyland Hotel, and I will link that below. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. Make sure you come back for day 2 and our time at Walt Disney Studios and another day at Disneyland Park. I will see you next time.